It is 12:36. The State and Local Government and Veterans Committee has a quorum, and we are about to proceed. Some of the bills have been heard in other committees today, and we will be limiting conversations to portions under our jurisdiction. If we do not finish our work, we will come back tomorrow afternoon at 12:30. With that, I will pass it to Chair Dietzig for some opening comments.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. As Nicole said, we hope to finish our business today, but if we don't, with deadlines coming, we'll be back tomorrow afternoon to finish the bill. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Dietzig. First on our agenda is Senate File 3719. Senator Putnam, if you could please come up and proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Today I want to talk to you about something called AFREC. I'm pleased to present Senate File 3719, which extends the Minnesota Agricultural Fertilizer Research and Educational Council, thus AFREC. This is not insurance. There's no goose involved, which began in 2008. It's charged with improving fertilizer efficiency, farm profitability, and the environment through soil fertility research, technology development, and education. The 12-member council is comprised of both farmers and professional ag service providers who select and fund soil fertility research and education projects through a competitive grant process. Now, this legislation extends the sunset for AFREC from its current expiration of June 30th, 2025 to June 30th, 2035. The council is funded through a 40-cent per ton fee on fertilizer sales, although this mechanism is set to expire at June 30th of this year, which is why this legislation is so urgent. The bill likewise extends the collection of this fee and the associated account by 10 years to 2034. As agriculture technology and the environment continue to change, it's crucial that farmers continue to have access to unbiased scientific information on soil fertility and nutrient management. I'd like to add as well, it's crucial that farmers have a say in the nature and scope of that research, which is what is accomplished by AFREC. This will not only help farmers to optimize yields and increase profits, but also in their mission to be good stewards of the environment. This is how we help farmers help us by keeping the environment strong and green. Last, I'd like to focus on the aspects of the bill pertinent to this committee's jurisdiction. The council is made up of representatives from the following groups: crop production retailers, Minnesota Corn Growers, Minnesota Farm Bureau, Minnesota Farmers Union, Minnesota Grain and Feed, Minnesota Irrigators Association, Minnesota Soybean Growers, Minnesota Wheat Growers, Potato Grower Industry, Sugar Beet Industry, and one independent crop consultant. If nothing else, members, you should realize that those are lots of different folks from lots of different commodities, and yet they all agree to work together to help farmers be more sustainable in their practices. Madam Chair, that's the extent of my initial presentation of the bill. I assume that there might be some questions, and I think we're ready for them.
Thank you, Senator Putnam. Are there any questions or comments on the bill?
Or not?
Seeing no questions or comments, Senator Putnam, do you have any final comments before we put it to vote?
Thanks for your time.
Okay. With that said, Senator May Quaid moves that Senate File 3719 be recommended to pass and referred to the Finance Committee. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes prevail, and with that, this will be referred to the motion prevails, and this will be referred to the Finance Committee. Thank you so much, Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next up, we have Senate File 3787 with Senator Pappas. Senator Pappas, are you in the chamber? She might be presenting in another committee. Can we go to the next one? Senator Pappas will be here momentarily. Please proceed, Senator Pappas. We are on, I know you are presenting a couple before us. We would like to start with Senate File 3787 and proceed at your convenience.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and I believe that the Department of Labor and Industry should also be here in case there are any questions on there. The commissioners here, in case there are any questions. This is a modification bill from last year's Earned Sick and Safe Time, and I believe that the committee would mostly be interested in the rulemaking section, which is somewhere in here. Rulemaking authority on page 2. That was, for reasons unbeknown to me during conference committee, was left out of the bill last year, and I'm sure that a lot of local businesses and the local governments would appreciate the rulemaking process so that they can have more clarity as to what the rules around Earned Sick and Safe Time are. The department has been providing guidance, but I think everyone is more comfortable when it's kind of in law, and rulemaking is like the law of the land.
And Senator Pappas, I understand that you may have an amendment to offer. Would you like to offer that first and then do all the testimony, or would you like to do that at the end?
I could do that right now, Madam Chair. It's the A11 amendment.
Can you please describe it as it gets handed out?
Yes, this was actually an issue requested by local government for clarity as to what would happen if there was like an emergency, like a snow emergency, and they can't have everyone calling in for sick time. And so we've clarified that if that is the situation, then they can suspend the sick time so that they have enough people, whether it's firefighters or emergency workers, if there is like a public emergency or a weather event. And that provides for that exception, and this was requested by local governments.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Senator Pappas. Would Senator Gustafson move the A11 amendment? She moves the A11 amendment. Is there any comment or discussion on the amendment before we proceed to a vote?
Madam Chair.
Senator Cran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Pappas, so I understand that you described the scenario which occurred, and it's critical for our municipalities, right, and our critical government services, but why is that any different than any other business that it's critical to their survivability or their livelihood that we would carve out an exception for one business entity, which is local government? Both are critical, but every other business could be in the very same boat. And so then where are we going to get into the process of just creating exceptions for everybody who shows up here on the next crisis that occurs to seek an exemption from this policy? Either we have a policy, I think, that should recognize all businesses. Our local governments are just medium and small businesses. Every medium and small business is going to be equally impacted based on their size and the nature. The difference is they go out of business. And on the other side, we lose critical services. I think both are equally important. So I would say we should come up with a better solution that allows businesses to survive, that fund the very government which you're providing an exception for, which they don't have. So I would urge a no vote on it.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Coran. I understand your perspective, and I feel more comfortable if we were able to provide that through either through guidance or through rulemaking. This is a very, very narrow situation where there's a public emergency or there's a, kind of dangerous snowstorm, and people need to be out and plowing the roads for safety reasons. So it was the local government who came to us, to me, and the other body and the department, and this is the amendment that we agreed to.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Are there any further questions or comments specific to the amendment?
Madam Chair, request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Can we please take the roll?
Chair Mitchell.
Aye.
Chair Disick.
Yes.
Senator Anderson.
Yes.
Senator Barr.
No.
Senator Carlson.
Yes.
Senator Swedzinski.
Yes.
Senator Drazkowski.
No.
Senator Fateh. Senator Gustafson.
Yes.
Senator Jasinski.
No.
Senator Curran.
No.
Senator Lang.
No.
Senator May Quaid. Aye. Senator Morrison.
Aye.
With 7 votes yes and 6 votes no, the amendment is adopted. And before Senator Pappas, you agree with the rest, or continue with the rest of the testimony, this both implies rulemaking in this committee, but also because the state is an employer, which kind of, I think, almost adds to why that specific amendment that you brought was germane. If you could please proceed with the rest of your testimony.
We made, I don't know if the committee is interested in changes that we made in the Labor Committee. I'm not sure if you want to just focus on things before your committee, or I could have the commissioner make some comments.
How, Senator Pappas, although people can ask questions on anything, members can, why don't we focus on, we have a lot of bills to hear today, so if we could just focus on what relates to our committee, that would be lovely. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Nicole Blissenbach, and I'm the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate File 3787, the Earn Sick and Save Time Modifications Bill. The provisions in this bill were formed as the department implemented the Earn Sick and Save Time law. DLI conducted extensive outreach and education for employers and heard from them about the challenges they were experiencing while implementing the ESST law. Their feedback was instrumental in crafting many of the provisions of this bill. DLI also heard from employee organizations about how the ESST law could better meet the needs of working people in the state of Minnesota, and their feedback was also instrumental in crafting the provisions of this bill. Specific to this committee's jurisdiction is Section 2 of the bill, which provides the commissioner rulemaking authority for Earn Sick and Save Time. The funding for rulemaking authority was included as part of the broader appropriation to DLI for ESST in the law passed in 2023, so no additional appropriation is needed. However, an amendment was added that extended the timeline for the appropriation so that we can continue with rulemaking after and if we do, in fact, receive that authority. So I'll keep my comments focused on the committee jurisdiction, but thank you.
Thank you. We also have signed up to testify today Mr. Gostwald. And additionally, Mr., I believe, Ms. O'Rourke. Oh, I'm Alex Hassel. Ms. Hassel, if you could please state your name and title for the record.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Alex Hassel here on behalf of the League of Minnesota Cities. My colleague, Cap O'Rourke, is going to testify momentarily regarding an issue related to paid on-call and volunteer firefighters, and there's also a letter in your packet related to the issue. So I'm going to focus on a different issue here today, and that is the expanded application of earned sick and safe time to all sick leave hours provided by an employer in this bill. The provision in Section 14 in this bill that's entitled "No Effect on More Generous Leave" would actually impact all additional sick leave provided by employers by requiring that all sick leave follow the requirements under the ESST law. This means that all leave would have to meet the accrual rate of 1 hour for every 30 worked, the uses in this law for ESST, which are often more expansive than other generous employee benefits, and no meaningful requirement for notices being able to be provided by employers. This is a very big change to the law. Instead of setting a minimum standard of leave that every employee has a right to, which was negotiated and debated last year, the ESST law would now determine how all sick leave must be provided in the state, regardless of how generous. Last year, the legislator created this baseline saying that if you are a worker in the state of Minnesota, you are entitled to a certain minimum requirement of leave, but that if you are an employer who does the right thing and chooses to provide a significantly much more generous benefit, that it is fully within your right to do so and within your discretion to do so as you see fit. As public employers, cities are really already doing this and really recognize the need for providing leave to employees. It's not uncommon for cities to offer upwards of 1,000 hours of accrued sick leave, and good on them for doing that. But what this provision would do is remove their ability to require notice or have leave accrual at a different rate than set in this bill, or have any different parameters over the use of hours. And these hours often add up to weeks of eligible leave for employees. This is also overriding existing collective bargaining agreements in which employers and employee groups have agreed upon terms of for the use of this leave. Our understanding is that this section is in response to actually a provision that was removed in statute last year that provides some general protections around sick leave in Minnesota. And we agree with those protections that were previously in place, and we would ask that those protections be put back into place as they have been in place for a long time, and they have been referenced in many collective bargaining agreements. So we ask that that language be reinstated instead of the expansion in this bill now. I do want to thank Senator Pappas, who has been generous with her time in meeting with us to discuss this, and we do hope to keep working together to find some resolution to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. O'Rourke, if you could please state your name and position for the record. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, my name is Cap O'Rourke. I'm the Executive Director of Minnesota Association of Small Cities. We advocate on behalf of the over 700 cities with populations under 5,000. I am here today to talk about the application of earned sick and safe time to our paid on-call firefighters. This has been an ongoing issue for small cities trying to understand how to apply this law for their volunteer firefighters. We have had a Zoom call with the department. We have had multiple meetings with the department. I have testified in multiple committees. So far, I have gotten 4 various FAQs, 2 of which advise to hire an employment law attorney. We've gotten some non-official guidance, and we've gotten some potential language fixes. The reality is, for our small cities looking to comply, cobbling together these various responses from the department is simply not an adequate response. We often have clerks and staff who work part-time or limited time, and for them to try to figure out this law and how it applies is really cumbersome. All we are asking for is clarity for when this law is going to apply for our volunteer firefighters, when their hours are being accrued, and how, when they pay out, it gets paid. And part of the problem, admittedly, for our volunteer firefighters is we have many different firefighters, many different cities, and they operate in different manners. So it is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all. But having said that, I continue to have cities, even when sharing the most updated FAQs and the most updated responses, having additional questions about how this is going to apply or if this is going to apply. So while we do support the rulemaking and hope that it will provide some clarity, I'm not sure that our small cities can wait the time for rulemaking, so we would ask for more clarity sooner for how this applies and how cities can make sure that they are staying within the intent and the guidance of the law.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I'd actually like to ask someone from Dolly to come back up and address the on-call guidance for firefighters, because I really feel that's the appropriate way to approach that rather than legislation, because there are so many different circumstances. So if Josiah is here, or if the commissioner wants to come back, I'd appreciate that. The other issue is really much more of a policy issue. So if you provide extra hours beyond the 48 hours, which is, you know, kind of a week and a day for sick time, which a lot of governments do or employers do, they might provide 2 or 3 weeks a year. Should the expanded version of what you can use sick time be available for those extra hours? And we're saying that yes, it should be available for all those hours. And part of the reason is, what if you use you may have several weeks of sick time or earned sick and safe time in your contract, but what if you use your 48 hours for, you know, a reoccurrence of COVID, or you have the flu really bad? And then later in the year, you need to go to a funeral, and you know you have all these hours available. In some cases, people have PTO and it's more flexible, but in your case, it can only be used for sick days and it cannot be used to attend a funeral. So, you know, I think it's kind of frustrating for an employee when they have the availability to be able to use those hours for essential medical appointments for them or their family, or to attend a funeral, to not be able to use those hours. So, you know, I'm of the opinion that it needs to apply to all the hours. So I basically just have a policy disagreement with the League of Cities.
Thank you so much. And I see that your testifier has stepped back up. If you could please repeat your name and title for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Nicole Blissenbach. I'm the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. Specifically related to the question involving paid on-call firefighters, we have guidance out that discusses when earned sick and safe time that an employee has accrued is available for use. And we've specifically addressed the issue of, can an employee use earned sick and safe time for a non-scheduled shift? And we have said that that is not a use that is covered by the earned sick and safe time law. So essentially, an employee can't call up and say, I'm not scheduled to work today, but I would like to be paid out for my earned sick and safe time. The reason that comes into play with volunteer on-call firefighters is they are called in, and if they accept, then they receive pay. But if they don't, it's not a scheduled time that earned sick and safe time would be available for use. So we have put out that guidance. I do think that that testimony is another reason why rulemaking authority is very necessary for the department, because as we all know, laws can't address every possible scenario that may come up, and I think that is why rulemaking is necessary, and we hope to proceed down that path to address other issues that may come up.
Thank you for the clarification. I believe that one of our testifiers, Mr. Gottschald, is back in the chamber. So if you could please state your name and title for the record and then proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Jim Gottschald. I am the Director of Human Resources for St. Louis County, and I am here testifying on behalf of the MICA HR Directors Group and on behalf of the AMC Human Resources Management Association. We represent all 87 counties of Minnesota. First, I'd like to start with thanking Senator Pappas and the committee for your support of the A11 amendment. We absolutely support the providing critical public safety services in a somewhat snowy event, so we are appreciative of that. Minnesota counties support sick and other forms of paid leave, including ESST. Similar to the testimony from the cities, we have and we do provide more generous paid sick leave and equivalent paid time off than the minimum level now required for all employees. We appreciate the clarifications in Senate File 3787, such as the rulemaking authority and the clarity around the rate of pay. We also appreciate and support employees being able to access more leave available to them for their family members in the same ways that they were able to do prior to the changes that were enacted during the last legislative session. We do have some observations with respect to how the new language proposed in Section 14, lines 1123 through 1126. This is the expansion of the ESST obligations to more generous sick and safe time leave. The more generous leave provided by local employers has been negotiated and agreed to because we recognize the importance of family leave, the struggles of working families, the importance of work-life balance, as well as attracting and retaining a workforce. For example, in St. Louis County, employees can accrue paid leave benefits up to 18 days per year, up to another 35 more days per year in paid vacation and personal leave, depending on their hire date and collective bargaining unit. They can carry balances from 1,350 hours up to 1,900 hours of sick leave. We are concerned that there are multiple complex intersections with how workplace rules and the prescribed ESST will interact with respect to employer best practices for performance management and with administering leaves under the Family Medical Leave Act. The prior law balanced allowing employees to access paid sick leave with the employer's ability to manage employee work performance, such as excessive absenteeism, which have a direct impact on the delivery of local government services for the workplace. So, as an example, in lines 8.3 through 9.6 in Section 10, the bill reads, reasonable documentation for the purposes of this paragraph may include a written statement from the employee indicating that they are using or have used sick leave for qualifying purposes. We feel that this simplified standard is very suitable for the 1 hour accrued for 30 hours up to the max accrual of 48 hours in a year, but it does become a little more burdensome when it's unilaterally applied to more generous leave thresholds. We also feel it's unclear how certifications by a medical provider requirements under FMLA would interact with the reasonable documentation requirements under ESST. Again, we feel that this is very manageable for the first 48 hours of a year, but it does get to be a little bit more complicated when employees are taking up to 12 weeks of FMLA protected leave. In summary, we may well be in a situation where local employers and employee groups will agree to align the more generous leave benefits with the allowable uses and other provisions that apply to the minimum ESST standard. As you know, we already have the necessary authority in the current ESST law to do that. We respectfully request an opportunity to speak, hopefully, with the bill authors to have more discussion on Section 14, lines 1123 through 1126. We are very supportive of the former statute 181.9413, the list of individuals that the larger balances can be used to take leave for, but we just want to make sure that we're in a position where we can continue to provide services to the public. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Pappas, any other comments before we move to members' questions?
Madam Chair, yes, we do have a somewhat delayed effective date for that section that the testifier mentioned, so that if there are collective bargaining agreements that have been made, that they can be adjusted to reflect the change in the law.
Thank you so much. With that, members, any questions or comments? Again, our jurisdiction is the state as an employer and also the rulemaking portions of this bill.
Madam Chair.
Senator Cran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And specific to our jurisdiction and rulemaking, I'd like to move the A10 amendment to Senate File 3787.
Senator Cran moves the A10 amendment as that is being distributed. Senator Cran, could you kindly describe the amendment?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. The process that we went through creating this earned sick and safe time and which has been implemented, the agencies implemented it, and now we're seeking clarity. What this amendment does is it removes rulemaking, It puts it back into the jurisdiction, or it would keep it in the jurisdiction where it should remain, which is this legislative body, to ensure that we have transparency and some accountability instead of unelected people making these decisions, which are profound, and writing law without the legislature. The average citizen has no idea what rulemaking is. The average citizen has very little time to participate in that process. It's deemed public, but remember, our businesses all have jobs to run. They all run their businesses. The average individual doesn't have the ability to come down and sit here and testify. And so it's sold under the guise there's some transparency, but this law was implemented without rulemaking. We're making many of those changes, which is great in a transparent environment that we have here today. Lots of changes, lots of discovery based on what was learned through the implementation. We, as a legislature, have to not only look at this program and its impact. We've got carve-outs here for cities. We don't have any carve-outs for private businesses in it. We need that to be done in an open and transparent environment, and to me, this is the environment to do it. We also have, I think you've already heard the last testifier talked well about the conflict and the challenges they have as employers, not just government, but all employers, as the new paid family and paid medical leave will roll out. The testifier talked about the need to have notification or something from the employee to justify a broad use of this, or broadening the uses of the earned sick and safe time. And so, yet that's not the privilege provided to an employer to be able to manage their workforces as we consider and move forward, or as the implementation of paid family and paid medical leave. All of these are going to be extraordinarily impactful to our businesses, and so I think it's still best left in this legislative process where people have true access and you have vetting by a much larger body, and the accountability lies within the legislature where it should be. And so with that, members, I encourage a yes vote.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your thoughts, Senator Coran. I would urge a no vote. This is kind of a classic discussion in the legislature about how much the legislature should do and how much we should give to rulemaking. I mean, you can see that local governments, even though they've been provided guidance by the department in lieu of rulemaking, it doesn't have quite the effect of law, and so they're not always very comfortable believing that the guidance that they're following is really going to hold true, and they might still be not following the law. So it's impossible for us to think of every situation. We're a part-time legislature. We're only here for a few months. We're only hearing testimony for 2 minutes. And we just don't have the time to really delve into each of these complicated bills that we've passed at the level that they can do during the rulemaking process. So I'd ask members to please vote no.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Senator Anderson.
Madam Chair, if there was not a roll call made, I'll ask for a roll call.
A roll call has been asked for. A roll call will be granted.
And Madam Chair, in regards to the concern about what Senator Coran is bringing forward, not only employers across the state, but we have a letter in our packet talking about school districts that are having to, they've already settled their contracts with their teachers and their staff, and now they're going to be asked to redo some of these things again. So I truly believe that we as the legislature should have impact on that and oversight on this bill going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Seeing no further questions or comments on the amendment, Senator Coran moves the A10 amendment, and a roll call has been granted.
Chair Mitchell.
No.
Chair Disick.
No.
Senator Anderson.
Yes.
Senator Barr.
Yes.
Senator Carlson.
No.
Senator Swadzinski.
No.
Senator Drazkowski.
Aye.
Senator Fateh. Senator Gustafson.
No.
Senator Jasinski.
Aye.
Senator Coran.
Yes.
Senator Lang.
Aye.
Senator McQuaid.
No.
Senator Morrison.
No. There being 6 yes votes and 7 no votes, the motion or the amendment does not prevail.
Madam Chair,
Senator Anderson.
where does this bill go from here?
Senator Anderson, it would go to the Judiciary Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments before I give Senator Pappas a final on the bill? Seeing none. Any final comments, Senator Pappas?
Madam Chair, I know you're short on time, so I just appreciate the support of the committee.
Madam Chair, I'd like a roll call, please.
Senator Anderson has requested a roll call. With that, Senator Carlson moves that Senate File 3787 as amended be recommended to pass and refer to the Judiciary Committee. A roll call will be taken.
Chair Mitchell,
Yes.
Chair Disick,
Yes.
Senator Anderson. No. Senator Barr,
No.
Senator Carlson,
Yes.
Senator Swabzinski,
Yes.
Senator Drazkowski,
No.
Senator Fateh, Senator Gustafson,
Yes.
Senator Jasinski,
No.
Senator Coran,
No.
Senator Lang, Senator May-Quade. Aye. Senator Morrison.
Aye.
Senator Lang.
There being 7 yes votes and 5 no votes, the motion prevails. Senate File 3787 has passed and is now referred to the Judiciary Committee. Thank you, Senator Pappas. Senator Pappas is also before us with Senate File 3986. If you could please proceed at your convenience.
Madam Chair and members, this involves the Cloquet Forestry Center, and Minnesota's 12 tribal communities identified the repatriation of the Cloquet Forestry Center to the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa as a priority. The 3,400 acres comprising the Cloquet Forestry Center are located entirely within the boundaries of the Fond du Lac Reservation. Much of the 3,400 acres of land that comprises the CFC was acquired by the university over 100 years ago from the Department of Interior at a small fraction of the appraised value at the time. As the university investigated the history and the property ownership, the real estate team determined that there was a number of parcels within the CFC whose title appears still to be held by the state of Minnesota rather than the regents of the University of Minnesota. Section 1 of the bill authorizes the Department of Administration to execute a title transfer to the regents of the University of Minnesota in order for the regents to then transfer the CFC in its entirety to Fond du Lac. The University of Minnesota appreciates the legislature's consideration of this request, which is in alignment with the university's policies guiding land disposition. Both the university and the Fond du Lac Band are in support of the legislation. In addition to advancing community interests, the ongoing relationship between the university and the Fond du Lac Band will continue to advance forestry research. We've requested a fiscal note. We think the outstanding debt on the property might be around $1 million, and this issue will be dealt by the Capital Investment Committee. I have 2 witnesses with me, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts-Davis, could you please go first and state your name and title for the record?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. My name is Alice Roberts-Davis. I am Vice President for the University of Minnesota University Services. Thank you for the time to hear Senate File 3986 this afternoon, and thank you to Senator Pappas for carrying the bill. Very briefly, Section 1 of Senate File 3986 transfers title of ownership of certain parcels of land within the Cloquet Forestry Center from the state of Minnesota to the University of Minnesota. This action is necessary to enable a complete final transfer of land from the university to the Fond du Lac Band. Senate File 3986 moves us forward in the spirit of collaboration and partnership with the Fond du Lac Band, and the university has had productive conversations over the last several months to create a framework to continue delivering on our research, education, and outreach capabilities at the Cloquet Forestry Center. We are also exploring additional opportunities to bring a crucial tribal perspective to help broaden understanding and experiences in forestry research. The Cloquet Forestry Center has been the primary research and education and outreach forest for the University of Minnesota since 1909, and the Department of Forest Resources has delivered educational and research programs since 1903. The university's focus is on ensuring that our faculty, research professionals, and staff have the tools and resources they need to help them deliver on our research, education, and outreach mission. We're confident this step forward will result in a richer and more fulfilling forest resources program, and we thank you for your time in hearing this bill. I, along with some colleagues that I have with me, are here to stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Our next testifier is Chairman Dupuy of the Fond du Lac Band. I hope I said your name correctly. If you could please repeat your name and title for the record.
Bonjour, Naganemus indigenous cause Nagachawananga Nunjaba, Migizidodem. We do Kawashin Nungun, Dashkatuan, Wajichigian. Kakini Naganima de Manidu, Kakini Ganamanidu, Wabadung, Jano Giwedinung, excuse me, Nagabi Nugewedung. My name is Kevin Dupuy. I'm the Fond du Lac Chairman. And thank you, Madam Chair and committee members, Ms. Pappas, for the opportunity to come here and speak today. The Fond du Lac Band is in support of the bond defeasance of the University of Minnesota, has been working in good partnership, working on the land, transferring ongoing partnerships to continue forestry education and research. The state of Minnesota making this one-time investment would be a good faith acknowledgement of the state's role in creating a forest center of the Fond du Lac homelands. This will allow a clear title for the band and continue the partnership. With this process, it was actually more than several months. It's over a few years' time period to have the conversations with the University of Minnesota on discussions about the principles of returning the forestry to the Fond du Lac Band. For the history, and some of you may not know that, or some of you may, since 1909, this piece of land has been occupied by the University of Minnesota within the confines of the Fond du Lac Band, which is established by the 1854 treaty. And within that treaty, we are guaranteed 100,000 acres of land. The principle of the university is that we understand that it's under the Forestry Division of the University of Minnesota with great research that has gone there. The collaboration with the Fond du Lac Band and the University of Minnesota will continue with that research, and it's been stated there with a tribal perspective on it. We all have to understand, and I believe everybody here in this committee, in this room, understands that climate change is here. Climate resiliency has to be looked at, but when you have to look at an Aboriginal standpoint of people who've been here for the last 10,000 of years, and to understand the processes that exist within that, the rotation of cycles, and the cycling of nature in itself. So it's very, very important that this stretch of land returns to the band, but to ensure and reiterate, this is a collaborative process with the Fond du Lac Band and the University of Minnesota. And so with that, Miigwech, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Finally on the list, we have Rick Horton. If you could please step forward. When you're settled, state your name and title for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Rick Horton. I'm the Executive Vice President of Minnesota Forest Industries. We're a trade association representing the primary wood-consuming mills in the state. You know, the Forest History Center, the Cloquet Forestry Center was established in 1909, right at the tail end of the big cutover period, and when fires had just recently ravaged the land, including the Hinckley fire just 2 years previous. And Samuel Green and some members of the forest products industry recognized that what we had been doing was not sustainable. We needed to figure out how to better manage our forests and train foresters to do that. And so for the last 115 years, that's been what the center has been all about. It's trained generations of new foresters and the wonderful sustainably managed forests that we enjoy today in Minnesota are a testament to the work that was done. As Chair Dupree said, the problems don't end there. We've got climate change, and our forests are a big part of addressing climate change. They can absorb and store carbon. And we need to better figure out how we can maximize that and keep healthy forests for all of us. Now, during this whole process, there's been a lack of public engagement. There's been a lack of transparency in the process that has led to a great amount of distrust amongst different parties. It seems like the band and the university have been talking a lot, but we didn't have a public listening session until just about a month ago. And it's been going on for a couple of years. We're very concerned about, while we hear there's an agreement on how things are going to go forward, we don't have that before us. There's a memorandum of understanding between the university and the band, and we haven't seen that. And so we have a lot of concern about how are we going to continue training world-class foresters, doing the research that's necessary, and doing the outreach to the public. So that's our biggest concern at this point. I will say that, those lands, 2,215 acres of it was purchased, allotted lands, and then the remainder of the 3,400 acres was purchased from willing sellers over the years, including over 400 acres that was donated by people for the purpose of creating the center. So, we're asking, where do we go from here? How's that going to look? How's it going to be funded? How long will we be doing research here? Or are we going to be coming back into this body in 3 to 5 years looking for funding to build a new world-class forest research center? Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Pappas, anything else before we proceed to questions?
Madam Chair, and I think the other witnesses can comment, I believe the memorandum of understanding does affirm the continuation of the Forestry Center, which is on the land of the Fond du Lac tribe. So, I think people are operating in good faith and plan to continue to do that.
Thank you. Senator May Quaid.
Thank you. And Mr. Horton, I actually have a question for you. I am not a forestry expert and probably not a Minnesota history expert either. In the letter that you submitted to the committee, you talked about in 1896, there was a fire and there was somebody, Professor Samuel Green and the leaders of the forest industry wanted to learn more about forest conservation. Did they ever consult the people who tended the forest for thousands of years before that?
Mr. Horton.
Madam Chair and Senator McQuaid, that's not in the information that I have. Perhaps through the oral history of the band, they've got a better understanding of that. All I have to go by is history documents and legislation from the time.
Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think that's something that stands out to me, and it seems like the piece that I feel like is missing from a lot of this conversation is, a lot of times that false narrative of like the untouched lands of the United States, right? It was really because of the sustainable practices of indigenous people on this land that made it look like it had been untouched, even though it had been used sustainably for thousands of years. And so I feel like, something we might be missing is actually leaning on that knowledge instead of trying to rebuild it on its own for 100 years. There's thousands of years of knowledge, and I think that's really important to talk about as we enter into this conversation. So I'm really appreciative that these conversations are happening, and I hope you get a copy of the MOU. It should be online so that you can read about what's been going on.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Senator Curran?
So Senator Pappas, I don't think the bill helps the general citizens understand what's included in it. So it talks about the transfer of the land, but it doesn't identify much of it. It certainly doesn't cover the assets on it. So what's the value? What are the total acres? Because I spoke to when the University of Minnesota representative was in my office. So what's the total acreage of land transfer?
Senator Pappas?
I believe that they said it was 1,000 acres. I don't recall exactly. Maybe Mr. Depew knows, or Ms. Roberts Davis.
Madam Chair, Senator Cron, I believe it's about 400 acres.
Oh, 400 acres. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Senator Coran.
And thank you, Senator Pappas. And it was interesting because the University of Minnesota rep that was, I think the Duluth leader was in saying it was 40 acres and within it. So I'd like clarification, which is it? And then also the value of the assets. Please describe the value of the assets, the infrastructure that's on the property today, the forestry center, the research facility.
Ms. Roberts-Davis, if you could just, because we've kind of started with you again, say your name and title for the record before you proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alice Roberts-Davis, University of Minnesota. I will consult a friend. I believe that it was 400 acres transferred from the state to the university, and I believe it's about $1 million worth of assets on the property, $1.4 million worth of assets on the property. No, I'm going to call a friend.
Welcome to the committee. If you could please state your name and title for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Leslie Krieger, and I'm the Assistant Vice President for Planning, Space, and Real Estate at the University of Minnesota. Ms. Roberts-Davis is correct that the total land that we are requesting the state transfer to the Regents of the University of Minnesota is 400 acres.
Madam Chair, could she speak into the microphone, please?
I apologize.
Thank you.
The total request is 400 acres of land that the University of Minnesota is requesting the state transfer to the university so that then we can transfer the entire Cloquet Forestry Center to the Fond du Lac Band. That, I think the misconception there was the 40 acres, there's 10 40-acre quarter sections, and that's where that comes from. In terms of the total value of the property, we do not have an appraisal. The $1.4 million is the 1.3 to 1.4 is the current estimate for the bond defeasance, and that is being worked on by MMB to get that specific number for the rest of the bill.
Madam Chair?
Senator Coran.
Thank you, Ms. Krieger. And so with that, again, the bill doesn't provide any of the transparency, so the average citizens have no idea. One, I think the forestry industry's reflected that, or the concern that, one, they aren't part of the process, and two, they want to be guaranteed that the facility does exist, and I think that's the intent. But the MOU that's included in the package just says, well, we've agreed to agree to something in the future, which will then not provide any transparent process that anybody can understand that the University of Minnesota has given the land away. And so it should be transparent, at least create a process so everybody understands what it is and where it's going to go. And then will the University of Minnesota, is there a commitment to all the parties here that you will achieve an agreement to lease back the facilities that we currently operate before that land transfer occurs? Because I don't see any of those commitments in the legislation or anything that would guarantee the concerns of the industry. And everybody wants to work together. The tribes, everybody has a shared interest in the forestry and its importance. But there's nothing in here that would guarantee that those facilities are not then going to have to be reconstructed in another location to provide the same service that we have today. So what are the guarantees that you're going to put in place before the land transfer, mutually agreeable to everybody, so everybody gets, the land goes back where it should be, and then that we continue to operate and have access to that facility so we can continue the programs. So what's the guarantee you're going to give to the citizens of this state?
Madam Chair, Senator Curran.
Go ahead.
You are correct. The MOU was the starting place, and so that was just recently signed, and that was a commitment to continue the conversation and to work through these issues prior to the land transfer. And so that's what we're working on right now with the band. And the university and the band have been working together jointly for a number of months to work through those issues, including the ongoing commitment to have the university be able to operate the facilities at the Cloquet Forestry Center in terms of providing that world-class research, teaching, and outreach mission, as well as to then be able to work through the ongoing research commitments and collaboration with the band, and building on, as the other senator mentioned, building on those thousands of years of activity that the band has had on the site, and being able to build on that for our research purposes. So the MOU was just signed. We then immediately, or shortly thereafter, held the public listening session to gather more information to help guide the further process for those conversations, to continue that teaching, research, and outreach mission of the university in collaboration with the band.
Madam Chair?
Senator Coran?
That was great. I didn't hear one word about guarantee that we'll have the use of those facilities in that agreement. And so I'm not sure, that was a great definition, but no guarantee before that transfer occurs that we'll have a solid agreement to continue the use. And hopefully everybody's I think they're on the same page. Everybody's on the same page. But just have the guarantee and provide transparency. It's great transparency today after you've already made an agreement, and the forest industry, all the players were left out until this point. We would like to see a guarantee that they're all included, and that the agreement occurs, hopefully in a timely manner, so the transfer can occur and everybody wins. So that's all we're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Coran. And of course, everything said here today is on the record. And I know Chairman Dupuy has a comment to make related to that.
Senator Coran, thank you for your statement. The band is finalizing the facility use agreement. We are very committed to making sure that happens. So the transparency piece. I would just like to make one statement if I can, sir. We talk about citizenship, right? But the tribe and the band is also dual citizens. And when we talk about transparency, that's why we're in the discussions we are today. For the last 115 years, we had no idea what was going on with the facility within the confines of our own reservation's land. So I appreciate your statement about transparency, because that's exactly where we were at. And so now you can understand why we have the MOU, why we're doing what we're doing under that simple principle. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Pappas, again, just talking about transparency. And, you know, I've been a real estate appraiser, real estate broker for many, many years. And typically when you transfer a property, you want to know the fair market or the current market value. And to my understanding, as part of this transaction, the state or the state or University of Minnesota is not going to establish a market value for the people of Minnesota to understand what the value transfer is. Is that correct?
Madam Chair.
Are you the best person to answer this? Okay, proceed, please.
Madam Chair, Senator Jasinski, at this point in time, because we are not transferring, we are not selling the property to the band, but we are repatriating or rematriating the property to the Fond du Lac Band of Ojibwe, we have not we have not pursued an appraisal.
And Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Jasinski.
Again, is there an intent to come up with a current market value? I think, again, for the transparency for the people of Minnesota, we should understand the dollar amount that we are transferring or reallocating back to the tribe as long as we're doing that. I mean, that should be transparent. You should have a dollar amount so we know what that fair market or current market value is with the improvements. I think that's, if you want transparency, and this is happening, that's one of the key things that we should be doing, is at least letting the citizens of Minnesota know what the dollar amount, the current market value of that 400 acres and improvements are. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Senator Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Coran and Senator Jasinski, you have to pass the bill first to get the answers to your questions. So just wanted to let you know.
Seeing no other questions, Senator Pappas, any final comments?
Madam Chair, I just appreciate the support of the committee.
Madam Chair, I'd like a roll call.
A roll call has been requested. A roll call will be granted. Senator Morrison moves that Senate File 3986 be recommended to pass and referred to the Capital Investment Committee. Can you please take the roll?
Chair Mitchell.
Aye.
Chair Disick.
Aye.
Senator Anderson.
No.
Senator Barr.
No.
Senator Carlson.
Yes.
Senator Swedzinski.
Yes.
Senator Drazkowski.
No.
Senator Fateh. Senator Gustafson.
Yes.
Senator Jasinski.
No.
Senator Coran.
No.
Senator Lang?
No.
Senator McQuaid?
Aye.
Senator Morrison?
Aye.
There being 7 yes votes and 6 no votes, the motion prevails, and Senate File 3986, it passes and will be referred to the Capital Investment Committee. Thank you,
Thank you,
Senator
Madam
Pappas. Members, we will have a slight switch in our schedule. Next up, Senator Morrison's bill, Senate File 3561. Senator Morrison, please proceed when you are settled.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members, thank you for hearing Senate File 3561, the Packaging Waste and Cost Reduction Act. The problem that we face is that e-commerce and the delivery economy has led to a dramatic increase in packaging waste. Packaging waste and printed paper now account for 40% of our waste stream. And despite public pushback, plastic production is expected to double in the next 20 years. Minnesota has a residential recycling rate of about 20%, which underperforms for all materials, recycling only 32% of cardboard from the residential system, 21% of aluminum cans, and 20% of PET bottles. All told, Minnesota loses more than 685,000 tons of residential recyclables a year to landfill and incineration. Despite our best efforts, recycling rates in Minnesota have been stagnant for a decade. This bill makes manufacturers responsible for the cost of packaging, a proven solution that will incentivize producers to reduce waste, design more reusable packaging, and stop using materials that are hard to recycle. In turn, residents will have less packaging than they have to pay to manage as trash. Producers will have skin in the game to help fix the waste problem that they've helped create. Companies currently face no consequences for the packaging they put into the marketplace and enjoy profits that are subsidized through recycling costs paid by individuals and local governments. Currently, the cost burden of managing these ever-growing mountains of packaging waste now falls on local governments and individuals. Counties spend $100 million a year on recycling efforts, while cities raise tens of millions of dollars in taxes and fees for recycling programs. 30% of Minnesotans don't have access to recycling on par with trash. It's worse in apartments and condos where it's as high as 67% of residents. Minnesotans want recycling. 84% of consumers expect packages to be recyclable and made from recyclable material. We have a solution. A producer-created and funded system, the Packaging Waste and Cost Reduction Bill, to reduce packaging and single-use plastic, making recycling easier and greatly lowering individual and taxpayer costs for managing waste is the answer. This bill establishes a statewide program conducted by a product stewardship organization, organized and funded by producers of packaging and paper products, overseen by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and an advisory board. The Producer Responsibility Organization will fund and develop recycling for all packaging across the state, which will result in enhanced services to residents and more green jobs in reuse, recycling, and composting. The data shows that the impact of packaging fees on producers have non-existent impacts on consumer prices because packaging fees are only one minor factor affecting the market price of packaged goods. According to a study in June of 2022 by Columbia University in New York, even on the highest end of estimates of packaging costs doubling, the highest consuming households might see an increase of 0 to 0.69% increase in monthly purchases equaling $0 to $4. Most of the savings will be felt directly by residents who will see the cost of recycling reduce and the amount of packaging that they can now recycle or compost increase. In greater Minnesota, many communities will have greater access to recycling and greatly expand what residents can recycle as funding from producers helps expand the system. In the metro, residents will see lower fees from their cities or see their waste bill go down as recycling costs are covered. Many waste challenges are left unaddressed because county solid waste budgets are so consumed by the cost of basic recycling and hazardous waste management services. Less than 5% is spent on education, which is critical to improving outcomes and reducing the amount of waste generated. Less than 4% in programs to prevent and divert food waste from disposal, and less than 2% on source reduction and reuse, the most preferred waste management methods. And Madam Chair, I do have the A14 amendment, which comes from the ongoing collaboration with the many different stakeholders, and I would like to move that amendment, please.
Thank you. Senator Morrison moves
my name.
the A14 amendment. Can you please describe the amendment?
Madam Chair, the amendment essentially is a list of exempted materials that comes from our collaboration with various stakeholders. So most notably, it's medical devices, infant formula, medical drugs, and nutritional supplements, among other things.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions before we go to the A14 amendment? With that said, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The amendment prevails, and please proceed with the rest of your bill.
With that, Madam Chair, I believe I have some testifiers, hopefully mostly 4.
Thank you. The first I have on the list is Mr. Stahlberger. If you could please step forward, and then on deck, Mr. Herberholz. Please state your name for the record and proceed when you are ready.
Thank you, Chair Mitchell, and members of the committee. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Stahlberger, and I'm Director of Property and Environmental Resources for Blue Earth County, Minnesota. And our county owns and operates a landfill for the region. I'm here today on behalf of the Solid Waste Administrators Association, the Minnesota Inter-County Association, and the Partnership on Waste and Energy. These groups, representing counties and the solid waste administrators across the state, support the Packaging Waste and Cost Reduction Act. I am using my testimony to present the greater Minnesota County perspective on the bill and the opportunities that it provides us. Blue Earth County is responsible for managing the waste stream generated in the county, but our landfill also serves many counties in our region. Packaging waste and printed paper products account for a sizable portion of the common waste stream that we see. Waste generation in general continues to increase, and that growing burden to manage this waste falls to local governments like counties such as Blue Earth County. This act involves producers and packagers in the solution to the problem that they are partially responsible for creating, and they will also be involved in managing the program. The objectives of the program to reduce packaging and single-use materials, to make recycling easier for our constituents, will directly impact Blue Earth County's waste management obligations in a very positive manner. Any reduction in the 112,000 tons of waste that are annually deposited in our landfill will benefit our county, our residents, and our state. Our goal is always to be to reduce the amount of waste entering our landfill. In Blue Earth County, we currently provide recycling, processing, and disposal for residents and businesses living in and operating in our county at no direct cost to them. We use our SCORE funding to cover at least a portion of this cost. However, the remaining cost is borne by our county's waste and recycling fee, which is directly paid by our taxpayers, as well as our general levy dollars, also paid by our taxpayers. This act will help us fund those services. This act will also help us provide additional services. We can provide additional educational outreach and also look at exploring opportunities to better manage our waste stream and reduce our reliance on landfilling. The organizations I'm representing support Senate File 3561. There are many ways that this act will help us benefit our local governments and, more importantly, our residents. I respectfully ask the committee to support the bill to help counties manage waste and to put the state on a path to greater success when it comes to waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and composting. I'll conclude my testimony with that, but I'm available for any questions representing, again, the county perspective. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. On deck, we have Mr. Kudelka. Mr. Herberholz, can you please proceed and state your name and title for the record?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is David Herberholz, and I'm the Director of Solid Waste and Recycling, a Division of Public Works for the City of Minneapolis. The city supports this bill, and I'd like to highlight a few items. Minneapolis has a successful recycling and composting program because of dedicated work and great expense. The success is due to continued education and outreach to residents participating in our recycling programs. And even though Minneapolis residents recycle very well and we have a low contamination rate, there's still a lot of confusion about what can be recycled, especially with plastics and paper. I think we can all agree that there's significantly too much packaging out there and not markets for all of that material. Currently, taxpayers are the ones bearing the burden of additional costs due to disposal of the packaging material included in this bill. This cost needs to shift to manufacturers that need to step up to the plate to redesign and reduce their packaging and take responsibility for the waste they create. This bill will assist in making packaging easier to reuse and recycle, lessen the confusion on public, and help recyclers provide a clean, less contaminated, and more desirable product for end markets, and help municipalities in controlling rising costs to provide recycling services. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'd also like to thank Senator Morrison for her efforts supporting the Packaging Waste and Cost Reduction Act, and encourage you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Reynolds is on deck, if you could come up at your convenience. And in the meantime, Mr. Kudelka, if you could please state your name and title for the record.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Kirk Kudelka. I'm Assistant Commissioner with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. First off, I want to thank Senator Morrison for championing this very important bill. MPCA supports the bill and will continue to work with the author as it moves through the process. While Minnesota is a leader in waste reduction, reuse, and recycling, we still have a ways to go to achieve the goals set out by the legislature in the Waste Management Act. This legislation creates a system and resources for us to reach those goals when we deal with waste packaging. Collectively, Minnesota has a 5.9 million tons per year waste problem. That number is only expected to grow unless we do something differently. And over half of that material is disposed of, either in a landfill or waste energy facility. The results are negative environmental, human health, and economic impacts. Just to bring a little bit of data to that, the impacts of the life cycle of products we use and dispose of are enormous. Because of the waste reduction, reuse, and recycling and composting we already do, we're able to eliminate 4.6 million metric tons of carbon dioxide due to those activities. That's roughly the same as removing 907,000 vehicles from our roads. Reducing waste, reusing it, and recycling it reduces greenhouse gas emissions, while landfilling only increases it. There's also a lost economic benefit because we throw away nearly 1 million tons of recyclable materials each year. The value of that is about $143 million. If we were to turn that into new and expanded businesses, it could create over 15,000 additional jobs. The bill uses a product stewardship model, which is a public-private partnership. Under this approach, producers of products take on the responsibility of the proper end-of-life management of their products. And the private side comes in the form of a product stewardship organization, also known as a PRO, who works on behalf of the producers to draft and implement a plan to prevent waste in the first place through waste reduction and reuse efforts. And when that isn't possible, funds a recycling system to reclaim the materials and properly manages them. On the public side, the MPCA is charged with the oversight of the PRO's plan through the approval and denial of it, and also the enforcement of the plan based on the criteria outlined in the legislation. It's important the bill contains these strong provisions and guidance for the agency to make decisions on key issues, including statewide performance requirements. The agency has aided in this effort with the establishment of the advisory board, which serves as a resource not only to the agency, but the product stewardship organization. It provides feedback on a number of provisions in the bill, such as the formation of the plan initially and the recyclable and compostable list as part of the process. Thank you, Chair and committee members, for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Quiles of the Chamber of Commerce, if you could step forward. And in the meantime, Mr. Reynolds, could you please state your name and title for the record and proceed?
Thank you, Chair Mitchell, and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm John Reynolds, the State Director for the National Federation of Independent Business. We represent over 10,000 small business owners across every corner of the state. I want to thank Senator Morrison and the coalition for their willingness to work on the definition of de minimis producer. We think decoupling the criteria for what defines the the de minimis producer is a smart approach that provides for a better scope of applicability in the bill. So again, we appreciate the willingness of the author and the coalition to work with us, and we are neutral on the remainder of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Quiles with the Chamber of Commerce, if you are here, and also Mr. Horton, if you could step forward. Mr. Quiles, I have you on the list first, so if you could please state your name and title for the record and proceed.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Tony Quillis. I'm the Director of Environmental Policy at the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for the opportunity to make a couple of brief comments on Senate File 3561. Madam Chair, members, Minnesota is a national leader in recycling efforts. We have a robust recycling infrastructure here and one of the highest recycling rates in the nation. No matter what statistics and data you look at, we're somewhere between number 9 and number 12. But we're unique and different than other states where we have a solid waste tax here in Minnesota, where we as individuals pay 9.75% tax as well as 17% on commercial and industrial facilities. That tax raises over $100 million a year and is dedicated to solid waste disposal here, passed through to the counties here in Minnesota. Besides that, our bonding and infrastructure committees, capital investment committees, have spent millions of dollars to expand local recycling and composting infrastructure here in the state, and that doesn't include the private investment that's gone in. So we have a structure that's been established here in Minnesota, and it was adequately and well funded. I'd also like to point out that last year, this legislature appropriated over $600,000 to the Pollution Control Agency to conduct a study on resource management. There's to go and look at and do an overview of the current system, look at feasibility studies, regulatory issues, policy initiatives, and reduce waste by 90% by 2045. That report is due back here to this legislature on July 15th of 2025. So, Madam Chair, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I think we have a structure in place that's well funded, and if there are some conversations, which I think there are, to have about how we can improve our solid waste system here in Minnesota, let's take a look at that report when it comes back, analyze it, move forward. So I think we should take a pause before we set up a whole new system here in Minnesota. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you for your testimony, and also apologies for not getting your last name quite right. I am trying to learn them all. So, Mr. Horton, if you could proceed, and Ms. Ketchum, if you could make your way down in the meantime. Go ahead.
Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Rick Horton. I'm the Executive Vice President of Minnesota Forest Industries. We're a trade organization representing the primary wood-consuming mills in the state. MFI is opposed to Senate File 3561 as it pertains to paper products. You'll see in the handouts in your packet, the American Pulp and Paper Association shows that nationwide, nearly 68% of paper and a staggering 94% of cardboard was recycled in 2022. That graph also shows that the amount of paper being utilized by society is declining and has been for 20 years. The other part of the handout is the 50 States of Recycling report for Minnesota. This is from just last year. And you'll notice that at about 330 on that graph, there's a long line going out, shows that in this state, 78% of the combined paper and cardboard is recycled, far more than any other recyclable materials. So we feel that we've made a commitment to recycling in our industry. Fiber is expensive, and so reusing it over and over as much as 7 or 8 times is just good business. So putting another tax on our business to try and pay for those that are not doing their jobs doesn't sit well with us. We would much prefer to be exempted from this bill. Paper is made from renewable and sustainably sourced wood. Managing forests improves forest health, creates wildlife habitat, reduces wildfire risk, and creates good-paying jobs in impoverished rural communities. We should be encouraging the use of paper packaging materials rather than discouraging it through this tax. I'll also point out that in other states, there's 4 other states have passed statutes around this, and none of them are implementing it yet. Just today, there was an article in the paper from Colorado showing that they're having a hard time getting an accurate needs assessment completed, and their estimated cost of the program has increased 20% to $310 million per year. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Pappas, if you could come down, and Ms. Ketchum, if you could please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Julie Ketchum. I'm the Director of Government Affairs at Waste Management, WM. WM opposes Senate File 3561 because we invest in new trucks and upgrade our recycling facilities, like the Twin Cities recycling facility that we're upgrading beginning April 1 of this year. We oppose the bill because it lacks detail. First of all, we're concerned about a return on invested capital. Will we pay down the debt on those investments? We're unsure whether we will, how we will get paid, when we will get paid, and whether that will be a reliable source of income. The bill also has a lot of details related to the power that the EPR Pro has in the system. If there's a lot of holes in this bill, if there are a lot of details missing, that means the Pro has a lot of power, and we have concern with that. We're concerned that this is going to look a lot like the e-waste bill that was passed in 2007, where counties and state government were taken advantage of by the computer manufacturers. The counties then had to come back 10 years later asking for more funding to be able to support the e-waste program. So yesterday, there was an article in the Colorado Sun, and it shows the status of the EPR implementation in Colorado. And there are unanticipated costs. I circulated that to members of the committee today. You heard it in the previous testimony. It turns out that within a month, the costs have gone up $50 million. Those are estimated costs. On Monday, Maine went through their rulemaking process, and people came out of the woodwork citing lack of transparency in that process, but also, again, unanticipated costs. So I urge members to look closely at what's going on in Colorado. There are webinars your aides can watch. I'm watching them. So Maine, Colorado, and in California on April 23rd, another. They are looking at unanticipated costs. So I urge you to press pause and to watch these other states. Again, WM is a for-profit company. We're one of over 300 recycling companies in the state of Minnesota that are for-profit, none of which were at the table during the development of this legislation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Pappas, if you could please proceed and state your name and title for the record.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Amber Backus, and I'm with United Strategies, and here on behalf of the National Waste and Recycling Association Minnesota chapter, of which Waste Management is a member, as well as numerous other companies that have generated over 17,000 jobs and provide collection, sorting, recycling, and disposal of waste in Minnesota. NWRA member companies have been an integral part of Minnesota's recycling system, and you've already heard that system consistently ranks as one of the top in the country. Yet the bill before you creates an entirely new regulatory structure that pushes Minnesota recycling companies to the sidelines. It empowers brand manufacturers through the producer responsibility organizations, or PROs, to call the shots. Based on the engrossment before you, on page 21, the new brand owner-run PRO establishes stewardship programs that decide how NWRA members would be reimbursed for providing recycling services, what the reimbursement rates would be, and the terms and conditions for the contracts. Needless to say, this creates tremendous uncertainty for NWRA members. The PRO is essentially dictating how the recycling collection and processing businesses should run, overriding their existing customer relationships and operations here in the state. Interestingly, the bill provides details on how and when the MPCA should be reimbursed by the PRO for the costs it incurs in setting up the program, but no such detail is provided in the bill for the impacted businesses performing the work. We have appreciated the ability to provide feedback to Senator Morrison and the bill's proponents, but after multiple committee stops in both bodies, our overarching concerns about the powers granted to the pro have not been addressed. Some have suggested the Producer Responsibility Advisory Board, established on page 10 of the bill, will be the forum for addressing our issues. But having only a couple of spots on an 18-member advisory board, whose advice doesn't need to be followed, only exacerbates our unease about the powers granted to the pro in Senate File 3561. So I thank you for the opportunity to testify and would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Morrison, any further questions or comments before we open it up to the committee?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Morrison. Any questions or comments? Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where does this bill go next?
Senator Anderson, it would go to the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee.
Okay. Madam Chair, Senator Morrison, did you request an local impact statement for this bill?
Senator Morrison?
Madam Chair, I do not believe so, Senator Anderson.
Madam Chair, I see that the fiscal note for our committee is right around just a small amount, but overall there's quite a bit of cost to the bill. So I'm just concerned about the overall impact that it's going to have on our local communities, and as many mentioned in their testimony, that it will have a negative effect without further clarifying exactly how they are supposed to implement this particular bill. So, Madam Chair, I would respectfully ask for a no vote on this bill and ask for a roll call.
Roll call has been requested and will be granted. Any further question or comment? Senator Cran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Morrison, this is a pretty onerous bill, and it looks like when we describe the producers and who do we think, do we have any idea of the number of people that this will capture, right? When we look at all of the producers, right, packaging, repackaging, we've got paper bag or plastic bag bans. Who is not, or who's going to be included? How many entities do we think this will capture? I mean, literally, how many total entities will have to register based on these criteria with the state of Minnesota to be tracked and to represent and have all their products approved, it sounds like, in this new bill?
Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Cran. You know, this has been a multi-year collaboration among many, many different stakeholders to come up with a plan to address this problem that we can't turn away from. I don't have an exact number to answer your question, but it's something that we all have to be engaged in.
Madam Chair.
Senator Cran.
Senator Morrison, then how could we fund it and anticipate? Reading through the bill, it looks like if somebody attempted after approval, it looks like MPCA wants to literally go through the approval process of every single product that's wrapped, packaged, plastic, paper, whatever it is, to allow it to be sold in Minnesota. And I assume if not meeting the preferred standard, then fees will change based on product and type to punish them to come into compliance. But there's also statements in there about, well, if a product is tested, then that includes materials that are then deemed hazardous, that there's penalties in it. Well, so we're going to build new laboratories. What does that look like? This looks like an amazing gross overreach. I think everybody just talked about the concern, and we've all been committed to how do we do the recycling. I think the paper products, they did a great job, that it's extraordinarily efficient in what we've done. We've already assessed hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes to try and manage that. Every private business has a goal to make sure their product, the packaging, is at the lowest possible cost and the best, for the environment and recyclable. This looks like an amazing gross overreach into our consumer world. We've got the recycling piece as one, but them costs will then be borne over into every product that we now will be heavy-handed in and how they produce or wrap or ship. And Minnesota's not a very big state. When we're talking about most of these producers, they got to believe most of this done is in a national or international environment. encapsulates everybody. Our products are packaged and done in China. Are they going to be at the table and making sure that their cardboard they use there is tested and met? It's millions and millions of products with hundreds of thousands of variations of each one of them from a chemical composition. I don't understand how that's going to even come close outside of punishing the people that are already trying to do a great job. How does this even come close to going after the bad actors per se? I would like to know what we think this cost will be to the entire industry, not only to what we're going to have to fund it within state government, but we referenced Colorado. I guess they've done it. What are the costs that have been incurred? How have the costs been reduced in any way, shape, or form by implementing this program? It doesn't sound like that's possible to reduce it. Just continue to shift and add government in every facet of our lives. So I know there's a lot in there, but I'm just walking through the nuts and bolts. Tell me how a person that decides to package a product, and they're going to be represented by a small board of 16, handpicked by the commissioner that has no oversight, at least in this bill, on that membership. And industry has been mostly left out now, and then as we move forward, how does that small group then set policies to every single person that's producing, manufacturing, shipping, importing, selling every one of these products? That's an amazing process with millions and millions of different types of scenarios or packages. So help me just walk through the basics. I'm new, I'm going to build a new shipping product, and how do I get my product tested?
Senator Morrison, to the litany of questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Coran, as usual, I'm taking notes. There was a lot in that.
Madam Chair and Senator Morrison, this processing world in me just doesn't stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Coran. Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Coran. In the beginning of your statement, you said something about punishment, and I would just respond to that. This is not about punishing anyone. This is about collaboration, and it's been about collaboration from the beginning. And it's collaboration to address a problem that we all face. We have an increasing waste stream in a time of climate change that adds to greenhouse gas emissions, that leaches plastics into our groundwater, that causes increased land going to landfills and increased incineration. In spite of our best efforts, we're stuck while our waste stream continues to increase. This is a really creative and collaborative approach to trying to deal with that.
Senator Coran.
Madam Chair, so in this great collaborative partnership between, I think it was described as a public-private partnership, then I assume it's a great collaborative process, then it's voluntary?
Senator Morrison.
Madam Chair and Senator Coran, of course not every stakeholder in this collaboration has written the bill exactly the way they would want it. But there is a large number of stakeholders, and I've tried to work with everyone, and I'm not able to give everyone everything that they want. Change is hard, and we're going to have to make some changes to the way we are approaching things. But I've made quite a few concessions from reasonable requests, I think, from industry. So we're finding our way to a place that most can live with.
Senator Coran.
Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Morrison, but collaborative when they're trying to negotiate to the second worst position when they have no choice is not collaboration. And so when we look at this, our businesses are successful in spite of government. This layer of government appears it'll continue Minnesota to put us on an island where everything here will just cost more. And we want to provide for the environment, all of those things. We've spent piles of money and we're doing that every way. We want clean air, clean water, all of them. This is touching literally every single product, every single package, and I don't think the average person can understand the size and the scope and the additional cost it will put, and the lack of availability of products, or accessibility to products that really work and serve our needs. So we're going to have an unelected group with great powers based in this bill with MPCA. And it will be punitive. When you read the bills, it talks about if you're not in compliance in this great public partnership, public-private, it's going to be punitive. And mostly to all the people who are already trying to get it right. So thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Morrison. I urge a no vote.
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious, Senator Morrison, the inflation-causing taxes that you have in this bill, the tax increases, have you asked for this to go to the tax committee so that that committee can review it?
Senator Morrison.
Madam Chair and Senator Drazkowski, the tax chair has not asked to hear this bill.
Senator Drazkowski.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Morrison. I think I may have that discussion with her because this bill directly through its taxation on the fine people of Minnesota is going to increase inflation in our state even more, sending us in the wrong direction that we've been going for so long. And I'm going to talk to the chair and encourage her to hear this bill because this is yet again another inflation-causing tax increase brought to you by Democrats here in the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
I don't think that's how inflation works, but Senator Morrison, would you like to say anything?
Madam Chair, I would echo your statement and just thank Senator Drazkowski for his collaboration on this bill.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we're a long day. I'll make it brief. I'm just afraid this is going to get all passed on to the consumer, and we're seeing more and more and more and more regulations being placed on our citizens of Minnesota. There's a way that we're collecting right now through the waste tax that's, as Minister Quills pointed out, that we're collecting that's funding these things already. I just don't know when we're going to stop with all these regulations, and it's just getting pushed on the consumer more and more, and it's making it more and more difficult to live in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jasinski. Senator Swazinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. I just, we keep hearing from some of my colleagues about the costs. And if you ask, I'm guessing if you ask anybody under the age of 30 about the costs of this, they wouldn't think financial costs. They would think about the costs of leaving them a planet that they didn't want to inherit. And that's something we lose from time to time in the conversation of cost-benefit analysis. And so I'd just like to remind some of my colleagues of just thinking outside the box and weighing that other side of the word costs, because our young people need to know that we care about leaving them a world that they're proud, that we're proud to give them and they're proud to inherit. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Swazinski. Senator Morrison, I had a quick question, and it's okay if you don't know the answer to this because I think there's lots of different pieces, but when we're talking about the way we do recycling collection now, when was that system kind of put into place?
Madam Chair, I don't know the exact answer to that.
So do you know, like a decade?
I don't.
Okay. The only reason I'm wondering is because I'm 38 years old now. I just had a birthday. But even in my 38 years, I've seen the way that we produce garbage and the way we produce waste change so much. And I think one of the things that is true, you said change is hard, and even good change is hard, and I think changes are important. And it's important that we respond to the reality that we live in to prepare for the future that we want. And so I appreciate you bringing this bill because, you know, I know you're practicing OBGYN, you know this, but they did testing on a number of placentas, and they found nanoplastics in every single one of them. I mean, it's not just getting into our water stream, it's getting into like the actual placentas that are growing babies, and that is incredibly concerning. And so taking a new collaborative, creative approach, I think is very important. Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Morrison, you said earlier in your statement regarding Senator Coran, Senator Jasinski's comments that you would work diligently with a lot of stakeholders in this whole thing. What about the outside? I just think of what, and this in the past couple weeks now, because we have a lot of birthdays coming up and a lot of products that were sent to us, some in big packages, some in small packages, but all come from China. And I'm wondering if the National Waste Recycling Association, have you contacted them about all this packaging that's coming in? How is that going to reflect on us recycling here this product? Is there any way to stop that? Have you had any conversation with them to say, whoa, my wife got a big package just 2 weeks ago, and inside the package was another box, and inside that box was another box. And here we got a huge amount of cardboard, and it's all from China. How do we stop that from coming in here?
Senator Morrison.
Madam Chair. And Senator Anderson, you enumerate the problem. There's just this huge increase in packaging that we're all seeing. And the point of this bill is to both make recycling easier, more transparent, but also to incentivize the producers to make more recyclable packaging and also to decrease the amount of packaging that they're using.
Well, Madam Chair, Senator Morrison, this isn't coming from Minnesota. Every place I go to buy something, it's made in China. Everything that comes to a local store, a retail store, it's all China. How do you stop that from, I mean, you shouldn't even be looking at Minnesota. You should be looking at overseas and all the stuff that's coming in from here. Senator, when I was in the House, oh, forget that. Representative Rukavina said, we have got to make it so it's United States made or Minnesota made. Forget China. Because China is the biggest polluter in our nation, along with Minnesota, along with it. So I don't see where this bill is going to help we've already got a plan in place, we've got structure in place, we're adding to, we're piling on, we're making it more expensive. The cost of this note to the producers and people in retails here, we don't need that. We just need to stop all that's coming in, because every time I go to a store, a retail store or a wholesale store, I ask for Minnesota made. Rukavina is right here in my head. I'm asking for Minnesota made, and I can't find it. My wife said, give up. I don't want to give up. I want Minnesota made or U.S. made.
Thank you, Senator Anderson.
Madam Chair, Senator
Morrison.
Anderson, I love to hear that Tommy Rukavina lives rent-free in your head. That's kind of cool. You know, I think that the bulk of the issue is around packaging, and most of that is made in the United States. The issue of buying American and buying Minnesota made is sort of a separate one. We're talking about decreasing the waste stream here in Minnesota for products that are sold in Minnesota. So earlier, someone said something about, yes, clean air, clean water, as sort of those are nice to haves. I would just conclude, unless there are more questions, by saying that clean air and clean water are not nice to haves. They are necessary haves. We need them to live. And our air and our water are in trouble, and they are endangering our health. This is a big, important piece of working to solve that problem.
Thank you, Senator Morrison. And Senator Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I need to answer one question first, and that is that all this stuff that comes from China has a brand name on it. Somebody has asked China to make that, and they make it, and they put whatever brand of the company that is making their margin on it. So you can't blame China for doing what has been asked of them. And I've been involved in manufacturing for 30 years, and I did a lot of specifications on things that were made in other countries. And, and the fact is that, my two companies were Ecolab and 3M, and we had committees that worked on this kind of question, trying to reduce the waste, reduce what happens to that product after it is made. Now, we did make a couple of mistakes, but for the most part, corporations are interested in following the regulations that is in their particular, let's say, product line. And I think in this case now, and I guess I want to say another thing too, is that I've lived in my same house for 53 years. And when we started out recycling, it was a grocery bag that we once in a while took out and put some newspapers. Well, let me go back further than that. When I was a kid, our church always did newspaper drives. And so we recycled newspaper that way. And then we went to the garbage pickup where we had a grocery bag that picked up our, the things that were deemed recyclable. And we've gone deeper and deeper into recycling. And our garbage gets picked up on Wednesday. And so yesterday, when I wheeled, the day before yesterday, when I wheeled our recycling bin out, it was so full, and it's a big bin, and it's so full that the lid can't even close anymore. So I think we're doing a good job on recycling, but I don't think we're doing a good job on making sure that all those recycling things are in fact recycled. And that's where sometimes the corporations that are, like everybody knows that Amazon puts the box in the box in the box. And our recycling bin is half full of cardboard when I wheel it out to the curb. So there are things that we need to do, and we need to get these manufacturers involved in it. And then when we talk about costs, I have, and Senator McQuaid has, the two largest landfills in our districts. And the one that's in my district, or was in my district, it's now been redistricted out, but we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars to fix that, because it's at the point where it's going to start leaching into the Minnesota River. And we need to fix that. We're trying to figure out how we can do it. And one of the things that we have decided is it's really going to be more costly to take it to somebody else's backyard unless somebody wants to volunteer for that. We're going to try to dig it up, put a liner underneath it, and put it back. But that's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars, and the state is going to have to pay for it. You and I are going to have to pay for it.
Thank you so much, Senator Carlson. With no other names for comments on the list, Senator Morrison moves that Senate File 3561 as amended be recommended to pass and referred to Judiciary and Public Safety Committee. There was a roll call requested. If you could please conduct the roll.
Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chair Dietzit?
Yes.
Senator Anderson?
No.
Senator Barr?
No.
Senator Carlson?
Yes.
Senator Swedzinski?
Yep.
Senator Drazkowski?
No.
Senator Fateh? Senator Gustafson?
Yes.
Senator Jasinski?
No.
Senator Coran?
No.
Senator Lang?
No.
Senator McQuaid?
Aye.
Senator Morrison?
Aye.
With a vote of 7 yes and 6 no, the motion prevails, and Senate File 3561 as amended passes and moves to the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee. We will go now to Senate File 3878, which is my bill. If Senator Swedzinski could please come and take the gavel.
When you're ready, Senator.
Oh, so used to flipping the switch, I almost went to flip the switch. Thank you, Senator Chair Swedzinski. I am here today to present Senate File 3878. What this bill does is it corrects the problem in Minnesota of prison gerrymandering, which refers to an imbalance that occurs when the census takes place and those who are incarcerated are counted where they are incarcerated instead of the communities that they have come from. 14 states already do this, And it basically shifts the voting powers of certain communities in Minnesota and really creates an imbalance in other places. So, for example, Moose Lake, if you look at the population, and when I looked it up, I saw varying numbers from about 2,500 to 3,500. Well, the prison in the area is 1,000. So depending on how you count those numbers, it can really change the population of a city or township. And then if it is counted that way for the census, let's say you're trying to draw precinct lines, and you're drawing precinct lines around a population that has been counted that will never vote. So it can cause issues both where the prisons lie, but also in general around the state of Minnesota, because that is not where people, once they are out of prison or not incarcerated, would intend to vote. I think there's a number of reasons to do this, but to me, the most persuasive reason that we should do this is actually from a constitutional perspective. I know most of you have your phones or computers. Article 7 of the Minnesota Constitution, Section 2. And I'm going to read it so that you don't have to look it up. But for the purpose of voting, no person loses residence solely by reason of his absence while employed in the service of the United States, while engaged upon the waters of the state of the United States, nor while a student in any institution of learning, nor while kept at an almshouse or asylum, nor while confined in any public prison. So we already contemplate in our state constitution, and when I helped with the census a couple of years ago when we were counting the census, if a person is deployed for the military, we still let them count their home of residence. If a college student is away at school but intends to return, we still let them count at their parents' residence. So this, for the purpose of prisoners, would bring that also in line with how we count people for the state of Minnesota, and I think it would bring it more in compliance with our actual constitution. We have already worked with the DOC. There would have been a cost on this had we implemented it immediately, but because the next census, of course, isn't until 2030, we pushed back that date because they are actually going to be doing a computer upgrade anyway. So what happens now is, as people are going through the process, about 65% already have addresses collected for them. This would just have the DOC verify that that's the address that they intend to have, or add any additional addresses into the system. But with the new computer system, by just pushing that date back a couple of years, they will be able to do a template and alleviate any cost had we implemented it now. So that's why we had pushed back the date in the previous committee when this went through elections. With that said, there is one testifier with us here today. If we could bring that person forward.
I believe that I am that one testifier. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Letha Knott, and I'm an attorney for the Campaign Legal Center, which is a national nonpartisan organization that's dedicated to protecting and strengthening the democratic process across all levels of government in all states. On behalf of CLC, I'm testifying today in support of SB 3878, which will eliminate prison gerrymandering in Minnesota. Prison gerrymandering distorts the democratic process by counting incarcerated people where they are imprisoned instead of where their legal residency is for the purposes of redistricting. This artificially inflates the voting power of districts with prisons. Elected officials in these districts supposedly represent large populations of people who have no connection to the area, who cannot vote there, and who have no friends, family, or community of interest that can advocate on their behalf. Two groups lose political power because of prison gerrymandering: the urban communities where the prisoners often come from and will ultimately return, and rural communities without prisons. When one district in a county takes more than its fair share of political power, residents in other districts are underrepresented and the democratic process is distorted. And because districts are drawn every 10 years, these skewed population counts are locked in place for the next decade. Prison gerrymandering also disproportionately harms communities of color in Minnesota. Black people make up 35% of Minnesota's incarcerated population, even though they only comprise 7% of the total state population. And as a result, prison gerrymandering in Minnesota denies many communities of color where these individuals are from fair representation. This reform is more than just an opportunity for Minnesota to join a national movement to abolish prison gerrymandering. following the lead of 16 other states that have taken some kind of action to end prison gerrymandering. It would also ensure that Minnesota's redistricting process complies with the Minnesota Constitution's definition of residence, which states that for election purposes, for the purposes of voting, no person loses residence solely by reason of his absence while confined in any public prison. We respectfully urge you to support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell, I was negligent. Do you have an author's amendment?
Yes, I do have an amendment.
Would you like to present the 810 amendment?
Yes, if I could please get a copy of that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may go ahead.
Please do.
So when census data is taken in and something happens to it called geocoding, so that it's basically just a privacy mechanism within the census data so that an individual can't be found by anyone just using census data, because some of the census data is public. So while adding into prisoners into this process, we have worked very hard to make sure that they would get allocated where they should be, but also meet those same privacy standards, basically. So this is just an addition to kind of put in some of that coding that would go into the census as to where they would be allocated to once their address information is provided.
Thank you. Members, questions? Okay.
I would like to move the amendment.
All those in favor of the author's amendment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Amendment carries. Discussion on the bill? Questions? Senator Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It says in here that the director must reallocate and exclude people who are incarcerated in state or federal correctional facilities. What's the definition of incarcerated?
Council? Care to weigh in?
Mr. Chair and members, it doesn't look like there is a definition within the bill. What I don't know is whether there's a definition of incarcerated person elsewhere in statute. And I will look for that, and we'll also reach out to our Judiciary Council, Ken Pappas, to see if we can find that answer.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll get that to you as soon as possible, Senator.
I have a follow-up on that. The reason I ask that is because, well, we have individuals who are incarcerated right now or in a situation where, like in St. Peter and in Moose Lake, who have completed their time within the guidelines of what was sentencing, but along with the sentence, once they finish that, they're supposed to then go back to the county from which they were charged by a judge. But we also have a stipulation that says they are to complete training in order to return to that. Is that part of the incarcerated definition?
Senator. And Senator Anderson, this is going to Judiciary, so that might be the place to ask, to have that question brought up.
Thank you.
The definition of incarcerated.
Thank you.
So, Senator Swedzinski, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Again, the census only occurs once every 10 years, and for whatever period of time that they are not at their residence, my understanding, and we can get more clarification, is, again, we're going to another committee with this, but it would be that anytime you are somewhere under the parameters, especially of our Minnesota Constitution, similar to the military, although I know incarceration is very different, where if you have been taken away from somewhere that is not where you intend to reside, and you are going to go back to the original point at some point, for the purpose of this, we would consider where you came from, where your residence was, and where you're going to be going back to as your residence.
Chair.
Senator Anderson.
The thing that concerns me that I was just talking with individuals from the Moose Lake sexual offender location, and they were basically are saying there are people there that have served their sentence many years ago, but because of state law, they have to stay there to complete their training. And there are members there that are in that facility that have been there as long as one individual being there 25 years. Are they still considered incarcerated, or are they considered, because they can't be let, they have a place where they should go back to. Wright County has received 3 sexual offenders that have completed their time and completed the training. But I'm just wondering if, when you have people that stay there because they won't complete the training, are they still under the auspices of being incarcerated? Because they have to stay there.
We have an answer.
Madam Chair and Senator, people who are at the Moose Lake Sexual Predator MSOP offender program, they are civilly committed, so they're not incarcerated. They're not under the correction system.
So, Mr. Chair, Ms. White, they're civilly committed. Do they then have voting privileges?
Yes.
Mr. Chair and members, I don't know about voting privileges. I just know that they're not incarcerated.
Thank you, Ms. White. Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think what might be really important for the purposes of Senator Mitchell's bill is that it's not just a person who is incarcerated, but it's a person who is incarcerated in a state or federal correctional facility. So we do have a definition of correctional facility in statute, and so I think it's the where and not specific to the incarcerated is like a plain meaning word, just like confined, right? So I think it's more about where they are being confined to, which is a state or federal correctional facility. But I will defer to the chief author on that.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. With the change last year to that once someone is out of incarceration prison, that they can vote even if they're on parole or whatever else, that would also include what you were speaking to. So the people in that facility will now have the right to vote going forward. And with that, they could also restate where, when you do the census, you state where your home of record is. So if for voting purposes, they chose to restate that as their home of record because they were going to be there for 20-some years, they would have that opportunity, but otherwise they would still be able to say that their home of record was their, in fact, home of record that they hope to return to. But yes, they have had their voting rights restored there.
Mr. Chair, is that in statute?
Mr. Chair, so that was part of the Restore the Vote last year, because they have finished their incarceration, and I will say I have concerns about how all of that is constituted as well. I've talked to some of the people there and had a meeting with them, and I have a lot of concerns. But that is something past their incarceration. And so because it is past their incarceration, it does fall under Restore the Vote, where they will have voting rights.
So, Mr. Chair, Senator Mitchell, will they vote then at Moose Lake? Because they haven't finished their training based on their civil commitment. And they're from a different county. Most of the offenders there, in fact, in talking with the 3 individuals yesterday, there's only one person from Carlton County that's registered at Moose Lake. So I'm wondering, because they are actually located from a different county, will they get a vote ballot there at Moose Lake?
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Senator Anderson for the questions. I am completely happy to continue answering these questions, but I would just like to reframe this in that population is not covered by this bill, because they are not what we are considering incarcerated in what we have in our definitions here. So those are excellent questions, but that is not what the scope of this bill is. Again, I will say that they have had their voting rights restored, and it is up to the counties to figure out how those populations are going to vote. I don't know, I can't speak to what that county will do. If they are not allowed to leave, usually what we do is, I just know this because I'm an election judge and I also sit on elections. Usually what we do is offer mail-in ballots, or the county could set up something where someone went to the site. But again, I think this is a slightly separate issue than allowing prisons to collect information on their incarcerated people and allocate that census data.
Thank you. Thank you, members, for your questions and feedback. Before you, final comments, Senator Mitchell.
Thank you for hearing this. Again, I think this is just important because, as we heard, this gives people still those ties, those bonds to the community are very important to people, and it helps with recidivism when they can have those ties and voting, and when you can go back and get out and vote, and that you've kind of been counted as a member of your community. I think it's just meaningful in that respect. But again, I would just like to direct us back to the Minnesota Constitution, which seems pretty clear on this issue, and that 14 states are already doing this. And I think to comply with the intent of our own Constitution, that we should be doing this census in the way that people are allocated, where they intend to vote once they're allowed to vote again.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell moves that Senate File 3878 as amended be recommended to pass and referred to the judiciary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. The ayes have it. I just have to say one final thing. The testifier today that alluded to that we've reduced paper by 20% in the last 20 years has never seen the Senate tables after a hearing. So,
Mr. Chair, I would say we're one of the most efficient recyclers in the country. It goes in the recycle pile while it's still warm from being photocopied.
You may be right, Senator Coran. We will be meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. To take up the remaining bills. The committee is adjourned at 1 p.m. Ms. Johnston will be sending out further information. Thank you for coming.